Hello and welcome to the Creators Guild podcast. I'm Chris Howell and with me,
Jared Lovelady.
and we are here today to talk about all things creative. As usual, we begin every episode with reading a little bit from our book. If you haven't gotten our book yet, just a reminder, there it is. You can go find it on Amazon. It is A Flight from Shadows, the first volume in The Ascension of a Queen, which is part 1 of Chronicles of Duradam. So that's a lot, but there's a lot of books coming your way. And today we're going to read chapter 14. Okay. Chapter 14, A New Handmaid, Cycle of Aolith, year 12182. Never before or since have I felt such a desire to slap someone more than when she turned to me, tiara on her head, and dismissed me in such a manner. Journal of Athandra Koviat, 4th day of the cycle of Aolith, year 12182. The morning sun shone bright through the sheer curtains of fine Eastlander silk covering the ornate cut-glass windows. Tiles glittered as the rays cast across the golden flecks of white elven marble floor of the princess-elect's bedchamber. Outside, the songs of early summer birds could be heard. Tawara sat at a small writing desk, a red and blue leather-bound book in hand. She had been up for hours reading, unable to sleep after yet another lackluster evening of confinement to her rooms. A month had passed since her confinement began. She met with her tutors for only a few hours each day. The rest of the time, she was left to her own devices. Despite the trepidation that came with searching for answers, the monotony at times was almost unbearable. She found solace this morning, as she frequently did, in one of her books. Devlar's Quest was one of her favorites. It was also one of those that were strictly forbidden reading for young women of her station. The story of a young drow adventurer, his exploits, and a love story bringing together a drow and a high elf maiden was more than scandalous literature. "You's going to be late to your studies with Master Teglin, my lady. You know how Mistress Sarah gets when you's late to your studies." Paris was a human woman, just into her middle years, with gray beginning to streak her long brown hair. She had been Tawara's chambermaid for the last 20 years, and had grown accustomed to sharing her unsolicited opinion when they were alone. She bustled about the room as she spoke, straightening and picking up Tawara's shift from the previous night. Her distracted air gave the impression that she was speaking more to herself than to Tawara. "Maybe you ought not to be reading those books this close to the hours of hustle and bustle in the house," Varys continued. "Not to mention so close to the time when the governess may come to call in on you, and after your last little escapade." "I know what I am doing," Tawara responded. "I am nearly done with this one. It is just getting to the exciting duel between Devlar and Trilla's brother. I want to finish it before breakfast. Besides, it will be an hour yet before Tessera makes her usual morning rounds, and sees to it that I am up and ready for the day." "I don't need knowing what all them books be about, my lady. Bad enough I even knows that they is here and hidden. If Tessera, or worse yet, Premier Corvin, gets wind of them, all heavens will come crashing in on you, and me too, for not telling him that they was here when I learned of them." A sudden knock at the door startled Tawara. Who would be calling at this early hour? Hastily she shoved the book into a hidden compartment at the back of the top drawer of the desk and closed it. Several parchments regarding her studies sat on the desktop. She rearranged them, seeing to it that they appeared as if she had been studying them. "You may leave me now, Paris. Take the remainder of the morning off. Return after the midday meal to tend to the bedding and floors." Tawara instructed Paris, who quickly made her way to the corner of the room to await any further instructions. She bowed with a grin for the possibilities afforded in a morning free of her duties. "Thank you, my lady. I'll see to him as you like," Paris chimed. With an approving nod from Tawara, Paris made a formal curtsy and exited with haste through the servant door at the back of the bedchamber. It was no secret that Paris and the woman most likely behind the early morning intrusion had no love lost between them. Tawara rose, moved to the tall stand mirror, and inspected the elegant young elf woman reflected in the glass. She was short for a high elf, with curves more of human proportion than the slim, angular lines of her people. These traits she had inherited from her mother. Long locks of golden hair flowed midway down her back. She took the image in and smiled, pleased with the beautiful woman looking back at her. She smoothed her skirts and adjusted her blouse until she was satisfied they were properly in order. She walked across the gleaming tile floors of the room to the heavy door of a private apartment and gently pulled it open. She had no desire to give away her apprehension to whomever may be calling this early in the morning. She found Tessera standing less than patiently in the antechamber. Behind Tessera stood a much younger female elf. The short woman was petite, with olive-brown skin, and seemed all soft, subtle curves, apart from her small, pointy ears. "Tawara, good, you are up and ready for the day," said Tessera, her shrill voice making decidedly sure Tawara was awake, whether ready for the day or not. She charged in, all but forcing the door fully open. "I would like to introduce you to Athandra Koviat. Athandra, this is Tawara Umari." Tessera gestured to each young woman in turn, as she showed herself in, dispensing with any pleasantries usually shown to the princess-elect. "As you have been made aware," Tessera began, "due to your age, as well as the recent unpleasantries you have brought upon yourself in this house, and despite my opposition, the Premier has come to the decision that you are to have a handmaid. While the princess usually makes the choice of handmaid after her coronation, under the circumstances, the Premier has the right to intercede if he feels it is warranted. I would personally recommend a few more years with a nanny, but Premier Corvin's decision outweighs the opinion of an old governess in the matter. Athandra has been chosen for the task. She will be your assistant and your teacher." Athandra gave Tawara a pleasant smile, followed by a deep curtsy. "A pleasure to make your acquaintance, Princess-elect. I look forward to our time together. I hope I am able to live up to the task to which I have been appointed." Tawara looked Athandra over, consciously sizing her up. She was beautiful and young, if not so young as Tawara. From Tawara's high elf perspective, she looked exotic. Tawara's eyes widened as she recognized the features of a wood elf. "Wooder," she muttered to herself. "Tawara Umari," Tessera barked. "What possessed you to use such language, such rudeness? Impropriety such as this to your new handmaid will not be tolerated." As a seeming afterthought, she turned to Athandra. "Athandra is indeed a wood elf. My apologies, Athandra. Tawara knows better than to use such slurs and demeaning language. Tawara, you will apologize at once. A wood elf handmaid was good enough for the queen, not to mention your own mother. One is more than good enough for you." "I apologize, Athandra Koviat of the wood elves," Tawara said in a flat tone. "It was merely a slip of the tongue, nothing more." She truly was sorry. Not that she was worried about offending Athandra. Of the little she knew of wood elves, they preferred to be called wooders. It was only among high elves that the term was considered derogatory. The unsavory term had slipped out, but she was not about to show any deference to this new servant girl. She had her station as princess-elect to uphold, after all. Tessera continued, "Athandra, you will see to Tawara's needs, and teach her of the world outside the realm of the high elves, the politics, practices, history, propriety, etc. of the other realms. You will find her to be curious, intelligent, and a quick study, although almost completely naive of the world beyond her own province. You are here to remedy that condition. You will also find her to be prone to bouts of arrogance, flightiness, and she is as stubborn as she is beautiful." Tawara rolled her eyes with an indignant grunt at Tessera's description. Bouts of arrogance? This coming from the woman who had never seen another in her life except down the nose on her face? Tessera continued, choosing to ignore Tawara's objection. "She has virtually no knowledge of the outside world, and as the princess-elect she will need your tutelage if she is to be prepared for her duties when the time comes. Tawara, Athandra is to be your constant companion. She is well studied in the customs and politics of the other realms of Diridim, and you will be expected to excel in learning from her expert tutelage." Tawara gave Tessera a scornful look before turning her attention to the younger of the two. "Athandra Koviat, it is a pleasure to meet you as well. I look forward to our time together." There was an awkward moment of silence before Tawara turned to Tessera, speaking in a dismissive tone. "Tessera, if that is all, I would like the opportunity to get acquainted with my new handmaid." Tessera nodded with one final look of warning to Tawara as she turned and crossed the gold and blue striped carpet to the door, her long skirts rustling as she strode and exited the chamber, leaving the two young women alone. "Let us get one thing straight right off," Tawara began as she made her way across the room. She stopped at her bedside table, retrieving a simple yet elegant silver tiara, before moving to stand in front of the mirror. I am in no need of a nursemaid, nor a playmate, or another set of eyes on me in the name of protecting me. If you are only here to snitch to Corvin, I have no use for you either. She paused to give Athondra a pointed look before returning her attention to her reflection. She continued, and her voice took on a more moderate tone. Perhaps, as a teacher, if a wood elf as young as you is knowledgeable enough to teach me anything, I have not already learned in my studies. I have my doubts about that. No offense, of course, but you are a wood elf. I am hardly qualified to be the nursemaid of a girl nearly as old as me, Athondra said with a hint of sarcasm. Athondra had to be nearly twice Tuara's age. As for a playmate, she paused, a look of mischief flashing in her big green eyes. One can only guess at what is to become play, and with whom it is done. For the time being, I'm here simply as your instructor and handmaid. I will tend to your general tutelage, lessons in geography, local and realm history, general politics, customs, and most importantly, knowledge of the other realms of Duridim and their peoples. When not instructing you, I will be at your disposal and at your side. The lady of the court is to be seen with her handmaid, when out and about among their peers, when attending official functions, after all. Tuara returned Athondra's gaze. Fair enough, she replied. Why my father did not make such things of a higher priority in my early years is beyond me. Perhaps that, too, I will learn from you in time. She gave herself one last look over in the tall, ornate mirror. When she was satisfied, she turned back to Athondra as she placed the silver tiara upon her golden hair. As for being at my disposal when needed, quite simply, you will not be. I understand Corvin's orders that you are to be always at my side. When not at official functions or in lessons, you may consider yourself like that of my shadow. I certainly will. With that, Athondra was dismissed without any further pleasantries. Tuara simply turned and walked out the door, not waiting for Athondra to join her. Okay. New characters.
Yep. Shorter chapter, but it was a fun one to write. I don't know why. I just remember it was a fun one to write.
Yeah. Well, it's bringing the people in and trying to make them real. I mean, especially because, like, as we've said before, Tuara's a nice person. She's also arrogant.
Yeah.
And at times a little bit a little little puffed up.
Yeah. Well,
beyond just arrogance.
but she's been raised to be that way. I mean, she's the princess elect, I mean, that's who she's supposed to be.
Well, plus with everything she's just been through, she came back from the ride, got in trouble, and is immediately Corvin and Tessera, well, Corvin mostly, is like, all right, handmaid for you.
Yeah.
And then she's been trapped in her rooms, basically, other than learning. She's had a month of essentially house lockdown and, being controlled and just like, and somebody else to come watch me. You can just suck it. So we'll see. We'll see where the relationship with Tuara and Athondra goes. Now, a little backstory. Jared, the name Athondra. You want to tell us where that came from? And how long that's been around?
Where it came from exactly, I don't know. Just one I made up. But I made it up about 12 years ago as a character in a video game.
Yeah. Nothing to do with this book.
No, nothing at all. But I liked the name so much that when we did come to making character names, I was like, this has to be in there.
But not just name, though.
No, name, personality. It was a role-playing game, and so...
Well, and that role-playing game still exists.
Yeah.
And Athondra still exists in that role-playing game.
Very much, yes.
So Athondra is already out there as a character in a whole nother world. And so Athondra now exists in this world too.
Yep.
Maybe it's like an alternate universe thing,
Yeah, could be.
It's what's the
Multiverse?
yeah, the Multiverse of Madness. In one, because what's the role playing game? It's the Star Trek.
It's a Star Trek game, yeah.
Yeah. Did you make up a race, like a unique race for Athandra? Or
No,
was she something adopted?
She's a trill.
Okay.
Just the ones with the spots.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So she doesn't have spots,
No, she's got pointy ears.
but she does have pointy ears. So, Multiverse of Madness. In one universe, Athandra is a trill in space. In another universe, that same Athandra is a wood elf. In another, maybe she's Spider-Man.
Who knows?
Yeah. So, there's a little background on this character and where this character came from. I don't remember where we came up with Tawara's name.
Tawara? That's another one I just
Was it?
pulled out of nowhere.
But Tawara doesn't have any other character ties to something else, right?
No, she was made up whole cloth originally as a love interest for another character that we'll meet later.
Yeah. And there are some other characters that are pulled from the our other sources.
Yeah.
Like role-playing games, D&D, online games, stuff like that. Other characters that have been pulled in and they now fill roles in these stories.
Yeah, well, I mean,
this story.
It's like some authors use real people.
Yeah.
That they base character, not necessarily the storyline of the character, but traits and personality.
Yeah.
And it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and even people that, the characters aren't based on somebody that you specifically know. It's like when Art was on and we were talking about Stephen King's writing and how I enjoy Stephen King's writing, but I've always had that issue with like the way things end for his books and stuff. Yeah. But now knowing like, oh wait, these characters are all interconnected and there's actually references to other characters that actually exist. They're all part of the same world. And I'm like, I just always read them as standalone individual books.
Yeah.
I never looked at any of the other stuff. So now if I'm like, aha, I gotta go read again and try to make those connections. We probably won't ever connect Star Trek to this.
No, probably. That's quite a jump. But,
yeah. Athandra goes to space and puts spots on her to be a trill.
Yeah.
Maybe. Where's contacts? Something. Yeah. So there's a little bit of background for this chapter. So hopefully you liked it, that new introduction of new character. So today we have a couple topics that we wanted to talk about. One is kind of, a little bit lighter here, is best cartoons.
Best cartoons.
Some of the best cartoons. And there's a handful of them. I jotted down a few of best cartoons that are animated features. They're not. I don't remember how long Snow White was.
It was the first
it was
animated feature.
Yeah, but I don't remember how long feature
It's
was
over
at
an
that
hour.
time. Is it over an hour?
Yeah.
I don't remember. But some of my favorites, and the reason we wanted to throw this topic in is we had a little bit of we had some computer issues today when trying to set up to record this podcast, and had to reset some drivers and redo some computer stuff. And while we were waiting for things, what did you do, Jared? While we were waiting for stuff?
Well, because it was Wi-Fi issues, and so I was pulling just different stuff up online to make sure it was working right, and I had YouTube open, and one of the suggested videos was Robin Hood, so I just clicked on Disney's animated Robin Hood,
Yes.
and
I haven't seen that in quite a while. But it is still, like, as soon as it came on, I was like, we should just sit here and watch this and not even do the podcast.
yeah, it's a personal favorite of mine too.
Yeah. So, Walt Disney's Robin Hood. And so why is it one of your personal favorites, Jared?
I don't know. I guess as a kid, seeing the one, I've always really been into archery as long as I can remember, and so that connection is there, and the hero beating the king, and I don't know. It just is that there are lots of little things, I guess.
Yeah. I think for me, they did a really good job. Again, the same thing with books. I fall in love with characters. And they do an amazing job in Walt Disney's Robin Hood, writing the characters, the dialogue. You know, we watched even the little rooster at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that he's strumming along on his guitar, and then shows up and he's like, I'm here to tell it like it is, or was, or whatever. And then, is it the same? The bear, is it the guy that does
It's
the same
one
voice
that
as
does
Baloo,
Baloo, yeah.
right? Yeah, he's got a couple. He was with Disney for a long time. Did a lot of Disney movies. But that first opening scene, they're running, the Little John and Robin Hood walking through the forest, and then they start running and they jumping trees and climbing fences trying to get away, and then they climb up in the tree, and then he's like, that's not exactly a candle on a cake. And Robin Hood's like, this one always had my name on it, didn't it? He sticks his finger through the hat. It's like, It's all those little details that just with all of the characters. You got Robin Hood, Maid Marian, Clucky, when she's like, as your lady in waiting, I'm waiting, for the to play badminton.
Yeah.
And then the kids, of course, the little rabbit and the little turtle.
Yeah.
There. It's just all around. Spiders, snakes, and a lizard head. If I tattletale, I'll die till I'm dead. And when the little rabbit is like, put your hand on your heart and cross your eyes. Yeah, I think that's what it is for me. And that's true of so few we have on the list here. Walt Disney's Robin Hood. We got Sword in the Stone.
Yeah, that's another favorite.
And that's Merlin when he comes back and he's like you're back from Bermuda. Yep, one modern mess. And he just left when he's like, this is a medieval mess. And then he goes to the future. What did he say? He's back from Bermuda in the 20th century or something like that.
Yeah.
One modern mess. You can keep it. Good stuff.
Yeah, that one. Oh, the airplane and the flying
Yes.
and
The owl.
yeah, oh yeah. That I remember when he throws the airplane and his beard's caught in it, and the owl laughs.
Yes.
I don't know how many times I've watched that.
Yes.
Belly laugh at the owl's facial expressions.
I would laugh at it today. I can picture it in my mind right now. When he's like, man will fly all right, like a rock. And Merlin's face he's just like, I'm so angry. And he's just like, ah. Yeah, I remember I just with the VHS being like, rewind it. And he goes to throw it and start it all over again. And then as soon as he's done laughing, rewind it, watch it again. And then rewind it and watch it again. Just to see him laugh over and over and over and over again.
We did the same thing.
Ah, I mean, I'm laughing just thinking about it because I can picture. It's hilarious. Awesome. If you've never seen The Sword in the Stone, go watch The Sword in the Stone. Another one I put on the list, Mickey and the Beanstalk.
Mm-hmm.
That one's pretty short.
Yeah, that's 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah. But I love, he's sitting there watching, he's got the two fly swatters.
7 with 1 blow.
He's like, they're talking about killing a giant. Killed 7 with 1 blow. Oh. And then one of my all-time favorites, The Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah.
That is hands down some of the best cartoon cinema that I like Kronk's New Groove too. It's not quite on par with Emperor's New Groove, but it's still.
I've not actually seen that one.
Really?
No, I've seen the Emperor's New Groove many times.
Oh yeah.
But I've not actually seen Kronk's New Groove.
Yeah, I don't even know how many times. Like I wouldn't even guess how many times I've watched The Emperor's New Groove. Yeah. So what about any other ones? So those are just a few we threw on the list of best cartoons. Any other?
Well, if you get out of the youth group, heavy metal is amazing.
Oh yeah. Yes.
But
I'm trying to remember when I saw heavy metal last. We used to have it recorded off TV because they played it on MTV.
Yeah.
And somebody recorded it on MTV. So, in case you didn't know, at one point MTV had music.
Yeah. Music every day.
Yes.
Like, that's what they did.
And then there were some special things. They'd have like Eon Flux.
Mm-hmm.
They'd play heavy metal occasionally in some other shows.
Vampire Hunter D.
Yes. Dog Boy. The Adventures of Dog Boy. But yeah, there was another one also that was also
Wizards.
Wizards.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Heavy metal, Wizards, and Rock and Rule. Did you ever see that one? Rock and Rule, it's like they're trying to use rock and roll to wake up a demon thing and take over the world. The bad guy is. Mm-hmm. And then he tries to like kidnap this girl and force her to sing to wake up this demon. And then she her love interest comes and tries to save her and whatnot. And then she's able to break his shackles and actually use her power of singing to force him back by singing like different rock and roll. Yeah, it's
music.
They don't have anything like that I can think of modern,
No,
Wizards, heavy metal,
even the
rock and roll.
sequel to heavy metal wasn't near as good.
No, I agree. And I don't remember. I don't know if I saw all of it either.
I don't
think
think
I might have
watched
been like
the whole thing because I was disappointed.
Yeah, I was kind of in that same arena. So there are some modern. Well, I guess is SpongeBob still going?
I don't know.
I've
watched SpongeBob recently, but it wasn't new episodes. I don't know if there are new episodes or not.
Yeah, but I still love SpongeBob, and of course I've worn the T-shirt. I'm a Rick and Morty fan.
Oh yeah, but it's still not the same.
No, it's not the same. And you got to throw. I really like Adventure Time And as crazy as it is, Gumball.
Bob's Burgers. It's pretty good.
Oh yeah, yes, Bob's Burgers. Love Bob's Burgers. Caleb's a big Bob's Burgers fan.
One I loved growing up was G.I. Joe. And I've gone back and watched it as an adult. It's really heavy for
Yeah.
kids. I mean, they're dealing with psychological trauma from Vietnam and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, well, if you go back and watch the 1990s X-Men and the Batman,
Not
Like-
X-Men 97.
yeah,
That's the new one.
not new, like the actual X-Men from the 1990s. Yeah, like I remember him dealing with stuff like Rogue taking off on her own and trying to figure out what she's going to do with her life and being this total outcast, and like even hints of, she's kind of indestructible, so suicide's kind of out. You're like, you go back and watch that stuff and be like, wait a minute, I was watching this as a little kid.
Yep.
So, I mean, I was a young teenager when first watching it, but yeah, the Batman stuff too. I mean, they're like shooting at each other. One of the episodes, Batman is put into a dream state, and it's like psycho trippy.
I think that one, I don't know if there's one currently going, but I think they've kept that dark theme through pretty much all of the Batman stuff.
Yeah, which I mean, it makes sense, but also you're like, of course, you're like, these are kids watching it. But then there's also the SpongeBob clip where SpongeBob is sitting on the couch and he's watching TV and he clicks the remote, and on on the TV there's it's like a sea sponge, and it's an actual video like from National Geographic or something like that, from a sea sponge, and it's like whoop 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 flopping in the water, and SpongeBob's eyes get real big, and then Gary comes in and is like meow, and SpongeBob's like, oh, he changes the channel real quick, and he's like, oh, Gary, I was just, I can't remember what he says, like checking the weather or something,
I don't
like-
remember that one.
But yeah, for kids, that's, I have no idea. But as an adult, like, I know what you're referencing. Ah. But yes, I'm a fan of a lot of cartoons. Always have been.
Me, same here.
Not as much as your dad.
My dad.
Yes.
There are a few that he likes.
Is it just because? Is it just a few?
It's just a
'Cause
few.
I guess he just really likes them.
Yeah. That Monster Hunter is his main one. It's a newer one. It's CGI,
Yeah.
and
Well, I guess I'm thinking more in terms of like Disney movies, the Disney cartoon movies, something like that. Like, just randomly be like, oh, do you guys want to watch this cartoon? We're going to watch this Disney. And we're like, who's us? Well, me, and if you want to. We're like, well, we're in our 40s and you're retired. I guess we can sit down and watch Disney movies together.
yeah, why not?
But
Right?
yeah. Yeah, like I said, I still watch cartoons.
Oh yeah, I do too. I have nephews and nieces though, so I can get away with it now and then.
Yeah, but I watch them by myself.
I do too.
That's the, what is it? If you're drinking, if you're at home alone drinking, you're probably an alcoholic. If you're at home alone and you're an adult man watching like Disney's Robin Hood and the Emperor's New Groove and Bob's Burgers, what does that mean?
I'm sure there's a name for it. There's
Yeah.
a name for about everything.
Yeah, who knows? So, but yeah, they love the cartoons. Love the cartoons. Um, another thing we wanted to kind of touch base on today, actually a little bit more of a targeted topic here, is creativity in general. And this topic actually was suggested by my brother Caleb. He kind of has some insights. He works at a manufacturing plant, and sometimes is like, well, I had some time just to think today, and I thought of these topics or this idea or whatever. So thanks to Caleb for pitching us this topic. And the topic is, there's a catch-22 in creativity. And how do you overcome this catch-22 in creativity? And so we're going to kind of talk about what is the catch-22 and how do you balance the catch-22.
This is something that we've dealt with and struggled with quite a bit, actually.
We're still struggling with it. I mean, we just spent, what was it, last week? We're like, yay, we finished another chapter. And the chapter was partially written. And we drove down to Arkansas and we worked on it on the way down.
Mm-hmm.
While we were in Arkansas, we worked on it for about a couple hours in Arkansas. And then we drove back and worked on it for a couple hours on the drive back. And then after we got back, we worked on it for a few, and it was like, I counted it up, it was like 10 hours.
Yeah.
For this one chapter.
It's not that long a chapter.
No, it's not that long a chapter. But we kept going over, and then be like, well, change this word. Oh, change that word. We'll update this right here. They wouldn't really say it like that. Let's tweak that a little bit. And I'm like, we got too much book to write.
Yeah.
And yet we still keep doing it.
Yeah. And when we really ran into it was once book one was finished, quote, finished, and we'd gone through the editing, and we'd gone through the editors, and we still spent days going back over and back through things, rereading. I reread the whole book twice in the span of a week, looking for all the little problems, and still missed a bunch of them. But
yeah,
it was like, this has to be perfect, and it delayed our book coming out.
And as we found out, like, still not perfect.
Yeah.
There's still some little grammar errors and stuff that
But it's
we
finding,
all missed.
Yeah, it's finding that. At what point do you put the pin in it and say, okay, it's as good as we're gonna get it. It's good enough. We need to move on. We've got more things to do.
Yeah. Well, and here in the specific question that Caleb posed. So we kind of talked about, we're currently editing books and writing more books that go beyond book one that is already out.
Yeah.
So Caleb asked the question, well, if we're writing more books in this series and we're producing future material, do we expect book 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. to get better and be of better quality, to be of actual better books than what we're writing right now? And if it's the case that our future books will be better than what we're writing right now, then what we're putting out right now is not the best that we potentially can put out.
Right.
So
the catch being, the only way to get better is to keep writing.
yeah. So if we read book one in a few years and we've got other books, and then we're like, oh my gosh, this is garbage. How did we ever put this out? Hopefully we'll never do that. We'll never actually say that, but you get the idea. You get the gist of what we're saying here. If we have the potential to continue to progress and continue to write and improve in our writing, should we be producing and putting material out there now that does not fully qualify for the potential that it could be? That's the question. And I like the way Caleb put that, and haven't seen it like put that specific way, but that's a question that every creator, every artist, everybody producing anything has to ask themselves. And it led me to there's a quote or a phrase. It's attributed to Winston Churchill. I don't know if he said it or not. I didn't look it up, but I've heard it before. It is, perfection is the enemy of progress. I run into that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I said, it's that, where do you put the pin in it and say it's done?
Yeah. And the question remains, where's the balance? Do you continue to work and to put more out and then make that available to the public, make it available to people? And or do you practice and practice and practice and wait until you master something and then make stuff available? But that also begs the question, if you're just writing and writing and writing and it's never being seen or critiqued by anybody else, can you become a master? You know?
Yeah. I'm personally of the opinion, get it out there. Because if you get it out there, you're going to get the external critique. You're going to be moving forward writing more, because for me, when you write new material, you're progressing. You're getting better as you do it. Whereas if you're rehashing old material over and over and over, you're not seeing new. You're just, you know what I'm saying? There.
Yeah. It's an interesting thought experiment to think, like, at what point should something be presented? Because think about that in terms of the world of being a chef. If you're, granted, you study and you practice some, but if you're really early on, should you be like, I'm going to go open a restaurant? And was it not Hell's Kitchen? Is it Hell's Kitchen? What's the chef shows with gosh dang it, the British?
Randy?
No, the British guy who says the F word a lot.
Yeah, that's Hell's Kitchen.
No, but who's
I
the
can't think of his name.
gosh, Ramsay.
Ramsay, yeah.
Yeah. So Gordon Ramsay. If you said, I'm a chef and I make this food, and you present it to him, he might be like, this is terrible. This is garbage. You should never cook again. When he puts the bread on the side of people's face, what are you? Yeah, it's how does that roll over into the world of writing a book, writing a series? Like we were told, there were some people who feedback we got early on was, oh wait, you're writing a series? And I think we've mentioned this before. You're writing a series, you're writing really long books, and these are the first books that you're producing? You should never do that.
Yeah, we did get some pushback there.
Yeah. And yet, here we are.
And so far, most of the feedback has been good.
Yeah.
But we spent an exorbitant amount of time prepping book one, and we're spending a huge amount of time on book two, and hopefully, you know, that goes back to what I was saying with the new breeds, you know, productivity and you know,
it generates progress. Continuing to work, continuing to put stuff out there makes it generates that progress, and hopefully speeds up the process along the way too.
I think it will. I
Hopefully.
hope it will.
But so we talked a little bit about this with Miller Thomas. I mean, we just touched on it briefly, not specifically in this like Catch-22 format, but asking him, you know, how do you feel about your writing? How do you feel about the books that you're putting out? You know, he's working on his vampire trilogy, and that's one of the things he put book one out there, the Rise of Chiropteron in the Wolf Hunter series, and he put it out there, and now he started writing book two, and then he's like, oh wait, I really need to write book two and book three together. I think he's going to release them. Book two is going to come out, and then book three is going to come out later. But he was really worried about, after having written book one and feedback that he got and how he felt he did in that writing process, that, oh man, I got to make these, you know, these got to be way better. I can't write The Land Before Time and then have Land Before Time 2 through 10 because everyone will hate me. And that's really, I mean, it's like Game of Thrones. So the books, Song of Fire and Ice, that have come out so far, like, George R. R. Martin writes really, really well. And they did a really good job in Game of Thrones, the TV series. But it's like when they got toward the last few episodes, and there's some people that like them, and that's fine. But those last few seasons, it's like they stopped the build. They just, it felt like they just kind of gave up and were like,
it kind of goes,
we're tired of this.
Back to the Land of Time. You go from something that's really creative, to something that puts money in your pocket, and that never works. You know, from a quality standpoint.
And it goes from something, Land Before Time, since we were talking cartoons, Land Before Time went from something that is like beloved and endearing and has characters, and like even as an adult I still like Land Before Time. That's another one that would be on the list of great cartoons. You know, don't step on a crack or you fall and break your back. A deedly-deet-deet when Ducky is hopping along, you know. You have all the characters. Sarah, when she's like, I can take care of myself all by myself. Or when she's coming up to talking about finding Sharptooth in the cave. And his one big ugly eye looking for me. Ducky's like, they just did such a good job with it. And then
there's the rest of it.
I was like, Land Before Time 2. I was like, the cartoons, the drawing looks a little bit odd. It looks a little bit, it doesn't look quite as good a quality. And then I only watched part of Land Before Time 2. And I was like, Holy freaking crap, what is this? My eyes and ears are bleeding. Like, if you watch anything after The Land Before Time, it may induce seizures, projectile vomiting, and projectile diarrhea all at the same time. They're
bad.
ridiculous. And I'm like, how did they do this? And, they made a lot of money off of them. I don't know how. If you're somebody that watched Land Before Time 2 through 10 and you really liked them, there are psychologists and psychiatrists. You should go talk to them because
Well, they knew their viewer base. 2 to 6 year olds, and
well, that's the thing though. Like, I was looking forward to the sequel, The Land Before Time. Oh man, there's another one coming out. Awesome. I was part of their viewer base. They just ignored everybody in their viewer base that wasn't 2 years old.
Yeah.
Like, Barney and Friends was not made for anybody over the age of like 4. Because I don't know how you can even have Barney and Friends playing in the background and not want to jump off a cliff. Or just be like, my brain is melting. The same like Teletubbies. You can have Teletubbies. Teletubbies is for little, toddlers that don't even know how to talk yet, and they just want to see colors and things.
Yeah,
and that's it.
That's what they were doing with 2 through 10 of The Land of Time, or Land Before Time.
But
it was terrible, but
but they missed all the rest of the population that would have kept watching.
But mom and dad bought the videos.
They did?
Not my mom and dad.
Oh, okay. I was like, your mom and dad did? I just lost all respect for your parents, Jared.
No, not my mom and dad. But, the 2-year-olds' mom and dads bought the videos. They made the money, and that's what they were going for.
Yeah. So, Land Before Time 1 makes the list. It makes the cut. Land Before Time, everything after that doesn't exist. There is no more. There's only one Land Before Time. And then there's the Wish. There's Land Before Time that you can order off wish.com.
Yeah.
Or something. They went the opposite of what we're talking about with the Catch-22 and perfecting your craft. And when do you decide, all right, this is good, let's put it out there. They got it with part 1, Land Before Time 1. All the other ones, like, there's no Catch-22. Let's just take a dump in this bucket and send it out to people on VHS. How about that? Terrible shows. So, yeah, from the creative perspective, though, there is a balance there. It's like people that go on America's Got Talent or one of the other singing competition shows, and they sing, and you're like, who told you to come on this show and sing? Or, perfect example right now.
Do
you know where I'm going with this?
I'm going with the breakdancing for the
Breakdancing! Oh my gosh! Breakdancing in Australia! What in the world was that?
He won a competition
to
be a representative.
The video is out there. You can go watch, like, what won her.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. I'm like, well, what the crap was that even?
Mm-hmm. It was better than.
It was better, but that's such a low bar to set. Oh, yeah. What I've come to kind of come to the conclusion, and it's totally baseless other than the Olympics, is that I don't think Australians understand what breakdancing is. Like, at all.
I don't. Yeah. There's.
Yeah, it's very almost troubling. I mean, I watched it. I was like, first, like, when I first saw the clips of it, I was like, this is the weirdest Saturday Night Live sketch.
Yeah, I thought it was fake too. And then it wasn't, and I was like,
Yeah.
this is just insane.
Yeah, when I saw, like, wait a minute, this is actually real? This is what this person did in front of the world? And now, like, there's all kind of controversy around it and how it's being approached and talked about and everything. But crazy. I mean, there were people that are like, breakdancing should not be an Olympic sport at all. And I'm like, you can argue.
You can argue it's too subjective, but you can also argue, well, it's extremely athletic. Or...
Well, it should be.
It should
It should be. But, you know, that's a completely different argument. However, I will say that performance is a pretty strong argument against.
Yeah.
You know, like, well, what's your argument against having breakdancing in the Olympics? Well, let me show you this video. Like, that's it. The prosecution rests.
Yeah.
That's my whole case. So, now I've seen some of the other just little pieces of the other breakdancing performances at the Olympics, and some of them are like, oh yeah, here we go. That's getting back to more like actual performative, like pretty intense stuff. However, I'll also say I've seen, you know, it's not like gymnast stuff. Like, I've never seen videos of people doing Simone Biles stuff. Just, oh, here I am with my phone at this little competition, and here's somebody that could dethrone Simone Biles from her gold medals. Or, here's my buddy, look how good he swims. He would totally blow Michael Phelps out of the water. No pun intended there, but like, you don't see you see videos of people performing well at events, but not like at that level.
No.
But I will say, even from what I've seen from like Olympic gold medalists in breakdancing from this year, like, I've seen people, 15-year-olds, just on the street, and I'm like, how are those guys not in the Olympics right now?
Yeah.
Because it would just be like, they don't have I mean, you can find YouTube videos all over the place where you're like, I didn't think people's bodies could move that way and to the rhythm of music. Just amazing. That I'm like, they would give, if they had some gymnastics training, they'd probably give gymnasts a run for their money. But so there's that catch-22. If you are a breakdance artist, at what point do you say, that's good enough for the gold? Let's just go for it. Well, what can you do? I can move like a shrimp on the floor. Put a pin in it. Done. I'm good. How do you know? Well, I read on it. I read.
Yeah.
I studied. I know what I'm talking about. It's the best. And I'm not a breakdancer, so I'm not saying I could go win any breakdancing competitions or anything. I'm not like armchair quarterbacking here. I'm just saying that book needed some more editing. Like,
yes.
A lot.
It did.
So wherever you're at in your creative process, yes, absolutely try to make your stuff good. But remember that phrase, again, attributed to Winston Churchill, perfection is the enemy of progress. If you don't ever come to a point where you say, you know what, this is good enough, or even this is good and I want to share it with the world. And maybe it'll come back. So Back to the Future, Marty McFly's dad. Do you remember what his dad's name was? All I remember is McFly.
Yeah, that's all I remember.
Think McFly. If I turn in your homework and my homework and your handwriting, George McFly.
Yeah.
I'm George McFly. I am your density. I mean, your destiny. No, Marty finds out that George McFly is a sci-fi writer when he goes back in time and meets his dad as a teenager. And he's like, get out. I didn't know you did anything creative. Let me read it. And George's like, no. I don't let anybody read my writing. Like, what if they don't like it? I just don't think I could handle that kind of rejection. Like, that's the other side to the Catch-22. You can't be teenage George McFly. You got to be, after being impacted by Marty, then you get to the end of the movie, and he's like, your new book has arrived. And he's like, it's like I always say, Marty, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. It's like...
Because not everybody's going to like it.
No.
But if you don't try, you don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we're doing a podcast right now. This podcast is going to morph and change over time. We'll get better. We'll have different discussion topics and whatnot. But, hopefully you're listening to, if you're listening to it, obviously you're this far and hopefully you're enjoying it. But there are people who are going to listen to this podcast and be like, well, these guys suck. And great, go listen to something else. Actually, don't. Listen to us anyway. Listen to us and just complain about how much we suck in your head. But the big thing is, wherever you're at in your creative journey, the first step is begin. No matter what it is you're doing, begin. And then put some actual elbow grease into what you're doing to get good enough where you actually feel competent at what you're doing. But don't let this compulsory need for perfection become the enemy of your progress. Because I guarantee you, as much as Michelangelo and people that sculpted in stone. Was it Michelangelo that made David?
Mm-hmm.
And you have these stone sculptures where it looks like people are draped in veils and stuff. They probably had a whole bunch of crappier things that... Well, plus, go back to the same Renaissance period and paintings. Go find a painting of a horse. Pretty much any Renaissance painting. And realize this person was like, I'm the best at painting horses. Shall I demonstrate? Like, what in the world is that? But hey, their paintings are out there. Their sculptures. There are bad sculptures out there. Well, they're not bad, but they're not perfect. They're they are what they are, but it still shows somebody started and they tried. Now, there's a difference between being cocky and arrogant and just being like, oh, I am the very best at this. And if you disagree, you're wrong.
Going back to cartoons, that would be Squidward.
Yes. Yeah. You don't want to be Squidward with your creative process. But don't let that desire for perfection stop you from simply doing. And don't be young George McFly that I don't think I can handle that kind of rejection. You can handle that kind of rejection. And then next time some of it you don't even need to learn from some rejection. Some rejection you can just dismiss out of hand as, well, you don't prefer my style. Or there are people that do not like Picasso. There are people who are like, oh my gosh, how is Picasso famous? Granted, he had to really master art, some like other art styles, before he went to the Impressionist style.
Cubist.
Or the Cubist and whatnot. Still, there are people that crap all over Picasso stuff. But some people actually really like it, and they see the artist's hand in what he did. So some of it you can dismiss out of hand, but you need to actually put time in, elbow grease into developing what it is you're doing, and then put it out there. Put it out there and run with it. And don't let fear of being imperfect stop you from progressing and sharing your creativity with the world. So go do it. Go be creative. Be inspired. Find something that inspires you and let it drive you to become creative and share whatever it is that you have become creative at. So, thanks for listening with us today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Send us a note if you think there are some cartoons we definitely missed that should have been on our list and we should have talked about. And until next time, go in good spirits. Thanks for listening to the Creators Guild podcast. Don't forget to get your copy of A Flight from Shadows, available on Amazon. While you're there, please rate it and give it a review. If you like the Creators Guild, please like and subscribe, and make sure to share it with your friends. Until next time, go in good spirits.